Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach.
Today, we're going to talk about the infamous topic how to handle horse show nerves. So, this is something that I have drastically improved on over my showing career. I used to get so nervous when I would show, but I've kind of learned how to manage it now pretty well. Lauren, I know that you've talked a couple times about how you used to really struggle with your horse show nerves, especially when it came to the finals. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you've learned to manage your nerves?
Yeah, absolutely. So, nerves is something that we're always going to experience. It just depends on the degree that we get them and how we channel them, right? Like, it's okay to get those butterflies. And as that saying goes, just make sure they're flying in the right direction. And so, nerves are an interesting thing because they can either take you down a positive route or a negative route. And so, in the past, like you talked about for me with the finals, I'd allow those nerves to send me down a negative route. I would let those nerves give me fear of what other people would think about my performance. I would let those nerves take me down a rabbit hole into fear of my own personal failure. And now, after kind of working through both the mental preparation and just having positive experiences, I've kind of been able to channel those nerves into taking me to a place where I say, okay, what are my tools in my toolbox? How can I overcome this? What's my visualization process going to be? But realistically, until we kinda dive into a little bit as to what causes us to get nervous, we can't necessarily make it to the other side of using those nerves for our good. So, if we start with the fear of what others people think of us, because I think that that's a big area that most of us struggle with, is we fear, what are other people going to think about us? What are the judges going to think? What are our peers going to think? What's our trainer going to think? And we almost view those thoughts in a more negative light than they necessarily probably are in that other person's mind. So when we walk into a warm up pen, we'll look around and think, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be looking at me. And we start to freeze because we're afraid, oh, if I ride my horse this way, they're going to wonder why I'm doing that. If I ride my horse and I chip a pole, they're going to think, oh, I'm a terrible trail rider. And so the fear of what other people are going to think prevents us to being an active rider that is in charge of our horses and taking control and listening to our trainer and doing the things that we need to do. One way to be able to overcome that is to really have confidence in why you do what you do. And so that comes from a lot of practice and really saying, okay, I ride this way because my trainer and I have set up a system that works for me and works for my horse and works for our program. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says or thinks, but this is exactly why I do it. And having the confidence in your own processes is really going to help you overcome that fear of others' judgment because the only judgment that you're going to be thinking about is your own judgment and your trainer's judgment and letting the chips fall where they may. But as long as you're in control and able to take it and run with it, that's really going to help you to be able to overcome the fear of what other people think.
What if you fear your own judgment of yourself or your trainer's judgment of yourself more than the innocent bystanders or the judges? What if it's a little bit more of an internal fear than an external fear?
So if it's an internal fear, you have to ask yourself, is this coming from previous failures where you're saying, okay, I've failed in the past, therefore I'm going to fail again? Or is it fear of potential failure? So if we look at fear of previous failures and saying, well, I've already proven to myself that I failed, I'm going to fail again. That's kind of where we get back into when we talk about growth versus fixed mindset, right? So the fixed mindset is going to say, I have failed in the past, therefore I am extremely likely to fail again. Those nerves are going to be really, really difficult to overcome unless you can adopt the growth mindset. Unless you can say, okay, just because I failed in the past doesn't mean I'm going to fail in the future. So when we do have those failures in the past, We need to look at them through that growth mindset lens. We need to say, okay, I failed. Yes, I am owning this. I'm taking responsibility for it, but I'm not going to let it own me. By owning it, you can find a solution. You can talk to your trainer. You can watch the videos yourself. You can go on YouTube and find answers. Build your toolkit based on your past failures. Use it as an opportunity to expand your knowledge base because a failure generally happens because maybe we missed something, there was a miscommunication. Sometimes it's just dumb luck, but a lot of times you could probably pinpoint a reason as to why it happened. So go back, find that reason, and do whatever you can to figure out a way to either prevent that from happening or a way to be able to recover if it does happen and recover much quicker than you did in the instance that you failed. So that's like what a big part of it was with my finals was being able to look back and say, okay, I know that I overdid the finals patterns compared to my prelims pattern. So by owning that and saying, I know I tried too hard, my thought process can be changed to say, okay, when I get nervous and I know that I'm going to go into these finals, I need to slow myself down. I need to focus on each maneuver at a time and having each maneuver be correct and to its highest abilities before going to the next maneuver and not looking at necessarily the class as a whole. Not saying, okay, I'm running into this reining pin. I need to mark a 219. It's by saying, I'm running into this pin. I need to nail this stop. I need to back to the center. I need to be able to pause and have my horse's feet be flat footed. I need to initiate the next turn. It's breaking things down. And that's what was able to allow me to take the failure from the past and turn it into positive nerves in the future and give it a guideline of saying, okay, when I feel these nerves coming up, that means I need to double down on my processes rather than let my anxiety run wild and allow me to just blow through all these maneuvers. And if you have a fear of what your trainer thinks, you really need to sit down and have a conversation with them because we all want to please our trainer, right? We know how hard they work to make us our best, to make our horses their best. But if we were to sit down and have an honest conversation about what their expectations are of us and what we think they have an expectation of us are, I think you're going to realize that all they want is what's best for you. Yeah, of course they want you to win, but if you don't win, they're not going to hate you. They're not going to be disappointed in you. They just want you to go out there, number one, have fun, but number two, be able to do the best of your ability. And sometimes it's okay to admit that the best of your ability is probably not going to win that day. But that doesn't mean that you and your trainer can't be super proud of whatever performance that you put out there. And so by having an open and honest conversation about those kind of fears and anxieties that maybe are induced because of your perceived perception of their expectations, it's really going to help eliminate that and say, okay, you don't expect me to necessarily win. You just expect me to be present with my horse, to be there, to be an effective rider, XYZ, whatever it is maybe that you guys work on. And even if that doesn't happen, they are still going to be there for you, support you, and help you to be better the next time. Like, I really think that if you just sit down and have a conversation, the fear of that is going to be almost eliminated.
What differences did you notice in your results, your overall experience at the horse shows, your anxiety levels, all those sorts of factors?
Oh, it cut it almost to nothing when I broke everything down into pieces because it's almost like work or just your regular day when you have a list of things that you need to do and then you can check the list off. If in your mind you're like, oh, I've got all these things I've got to do, what am I going to do? It gets really, really overwhelming and sometimes jumbled together. And you don't really have a process. You're not super efficient. But if you can have a list and break everything down as to what you need to do, everything's manageable. So by taking this thought process over into the show pen and making each maneuver its own separate, basically list item, it's so much more manageable. So I can focus on the things that I need to do to make that element the best it can be and then move on. So I check each one off the list. Okay, I did my run and slide. Okay, I did my first turn. Okay, I did my second turn. Rather than thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to have runs and turns and lead changes and some more stops. Like, this is just, oh my gosh, I have to do all of them like crazy. that gets really, really overwhelming and you end up skipping steps that are going to set you up for success. And also by completing each maneuver, you give your horse time to settle and a kind of a rebalancing point. Because when you try to throw it all together, their balance isn't going to be there, just as yours isn't going to be there. So really breaking things up has been a game changer for me of being able to handle a really difficult pattern. Even the easy one, breaking it up has just been a game changer. You had told me that you were going to try doing that. Have you been able to work on it? And if so, how's it going?
Yeah, that's actually been going really well for me. So I'm getting ready to head down to Vegas this week for the Level 1 Championships West. And it's the biggest show that I've ever shown at. And I'm showing a pretty green horse in the Eck. And she's a great horse. I love her, but she's only done the Eck maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's all been with me. And I've never shown there. I don't think she's ever shown there, maybe once when she was young. So I'm trying to not let my nerves get the best of me. And so for the last couple weeks, I've been practicing the patterns, and the pattern's like a pretty big pattern. Like compared to the patterns that they've had in the past, like there's an extension of the canter, there's a lead change, there's a lot of big elements to it. And I feel fairly confident about quite a few of the elements, but when I would look at the pattern as a whole, it was kind of like, "Oh my gosh, like this is kind of a big pattern for the horse and I." But I think that we can do it. And so when I started looking at the pattern is, okay, like the first element is you trot on a diagonal and then you're supposed to pick up the right lead and then go into an extension and do a lead change. If I'm sitting at that start cone and I'm already thinking about that lead change, I forget about making sure that I'm straight in my diagonal line. I forget about making sure that I'm getting her hip in a little bit to the inside so we can pick up the correct lead. I'm not going to be focused on being connected to her in my extension if I'm already focused about an element that's 4 or 5 elements away, right? So, when I
Yeah.
really started focusing on the pieces, that was actually really, really helpful, and for me in that mare specifically, the second that I lose my connection to her, things start to go not the way that I want them to. So, for her and I really have to make sure that I'm completely on the money all the time, like, I can't let my mind turn off for even a second. I have to ride every single stride. So, taking that apart and breaking it down into pieces has really, really been helpful for me. So, we'll see how it goes next week.
Well, I think it's gonna go great, but I think the biggest thing, like you said, is that you have to ride every single stride.
Yeah.
So by breaking down each element, it's going to force you to do that, right? You're not going to be able to future cast and be like, "Oh man, I have all this stuff going on." You're gonna say, "Nope, element one is post and trot." And so you can focus on that being super square, super balanced underneath you. Element two, lope departure, right? So
Yeah.
you can compartmentalize each thing. And then if maybe, let's say one thing doesn't go super great because it is compartmentalized, you're like, nope, on to the next one. Here we go. Let's just keep going, keep building. Because at a show that's that big, you can have a few little things because it's a big pattern and you can still get away with having success. So keep that confidence and remember that when you're out there that it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. You just got to keep showing and keep doing the best of your ability and keep riding your mare and you're going to do great, especially because you're super strong. And so I believe in you, Ellie.
Well, thank you. So I have a question for you. You said when you were talking about the raining, and I forget the exact comment that you had about it, but just trying to almost take little pauses in between elements.
Yeah.
How do you do that when there's no pause anywhere, right? Like sometimes, trail can have a big pause or the horsemanship, the showmanship. Like sometimes there are moments where there can be little pauses, but depending on the pattern, there might not be a pause anywhere. So, how do you do that when all the elements come up back to back to back super quick and there's extensions and things like that where it just feels like everything is coming down on top of you all at once?
So a big thing is what's considered a quote unquote pause to you, to the judges, might not even look like a half a breath, right? Because time feels like it is flying out there. So you think, oh my gosh, I paused for 18 seconds, but really you like maybe took a breath and then kept going, right? So the pause doesn't have to be for eternity, and it's just a pause mentally. So, like, let's take the world show run from the horsemanship when I was successful at the AQHA World Show. That pattern just had like element, 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 boom, boom, boom. And so you started in and you trotted and you did a true track and then you loped off and then you broke to the walk. So that to me was like a quote unquote pause. But I couldn't necessarily like relax in the pause because I didn't want my
Right.
horse to drop his back. But to me, that was a point where I could like take a breath, like one of those diaphragmatic breaths that we've talked about, recenter myself, and then lope off. And then after that, we loped around. We had to do a counter canter and a lead change. And then we did a regular lope corner. So the counter canter to the lead change was a very difficult maneuver, but the regular lope corner was quote unquote easy. So I allowed myself to take a breath, and that was my own internal pause. So for me to be able to go and lope that corner, I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to resettle myself. And then you galloped, and then I'm probably going to say it wrong. Maybe it was a gallop canter canter. Maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure, but we galloped at some point. And once we got to kind of a straightaway on the gallop, I allowed myself to breathe and focus there because that was a quote unquote easier part of that maneuver. So it's finding a place to settle or an easier maneuver, regain your thoughts. And settling doesn't mean relaxing, quitting riding, right? It's just a spot where you feel super confident and comfortable with what you're doing, like subconsciously with your horse, and being able to reframe yourself and maintain the strength in your body, rebuild that strength and say, keep going, you've got this. So, like for you, maybe look through that pattern and say, okay, which elements do I feel extremely confident in? And that's where I'm really going to take a deep breath and then regroup and let's go. Is there a spot in that pattern that you feel like you could do that with?
Oh, for sure, but it's not until after the lead change. So,
Well, that's
like, for
okay.
me well, yeah, and that's fine. I just know that for me that so element 1, trot down the diagonal, element 2, pick up the right lead, element 3, extend the canter, element 4, lead change, and then element 5, you have to do 3 square corners to the left, and
Mhm.
that for me is, like, the most comfortable part of the pattern. Like,
Yeah.
we're solid there. So that's when I'm going to be taking my breath. And then I won't be able to take another breath until we're actually walking out of the arena. But
Right.
at least there's one moment where we will be able to.
And also just take that breath at that start cone, right? And make sure you center yourself just from the very beginning. Do those breathing exercises as you step up to it. Tell yourself you've got this. And even if you have to fake it mentally until you make it, that's positive self-talk is going to be just huge.
Fake it till you make it. That's my mantra.
Yeah, exactly. You need a PMA, positive mental attitude. Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pen anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Can you share a specific moment where your nerves tried to get the best of you, but you managed them? And then another time when you couldn't manage them and they got the best of you?
Yeah, so a time when the nerves could have gotten the best of me, but I was able to channel them and have them work for my betterment would be at the 2022 NSBA World Show. I got invited to do the horsemanship invitational class, which was something I was so looking forward to. However, I had just sold my great horse that I qualified on it with, and I had my 3-year-old at the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to do this class, but I only have a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old was extremely gifted in the horsemanship, very balanced, a lot of talent, very mentally mature, but I had only shown him maybe twice before going there. And so I was like, okay, I think I want to do it, but I'm really nervous because I have a green horse, a young horse, and this is really tough competition. We're at the NSVA World Show in an invitational class, right? So the day before, we're practicing, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna admit it, I'm looking around and I'm seeing my competition. It's like, there's no way I need to be out here. What am I doing? I have no right signing up for this class. Like, I even looked at my trainer and was like, I don't know if we should show tomorrow. Like, what is going on? And so he was able to kind of center me and say, okay, Lauren, you've put in a lot of time. You know this horse better than 90% of the people out there. Like, you've done all the work. You know what to do. You know what he's capable. Don't ask for any more than he's capable, and you're going to be just fine. So I kind of thought that to myself. I remembered the times in the past, like of the reignings when I had flunked out in the finals. And I remembered what caused that. And what caused that was not allowing my horse to be where they were at and trying too hard. So that day I warmed him up and he warmed up really good. I told myself, you will not watch another person warm up today. It is just going to be you and your horse. And you're just going to focus exactly on how he feels and exactly what he's doing and respond to that and make it the best that it can be. So I was able to walk into that pen, nod to the judges. I trotted off. He was right there with me. I told myself, you be as centered and strong as you can be, and you just allow your horse to do everything that you've taught him to do and don't ask for any more than he can do. And believe it or not, we ended up, I think we're like 5th or 6th in the prelims, and we made the finals at the Cinch Invitational on a 3-year-old horse that had only been shown a handful of times. And that was so, so great, especially because the day before I was about ready to throw in the towel because I didn't think we deserved to be there.
And that seems to be a theme for you. You think you shouldn't belong, and you just wanna give up and give in, and then you go and you freaking kick ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I just sometimes gotta pick my sucker up out of the dirt and say, "All right, we got this," right?
Well, and the funny thing is, this was after you had won your horsemanship title in the level 3, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if a freaking world champion, level 3 amateur is in the pen wondering why she should be there, I mean, if that doesn't show you that every single person out there struggles with this, it is not just you, I don't know what does.
Absolutely, right? And that's the kind of exciting and humbling and frustrating thing about horse showing, right? Is I don't know that you ever feel like you've completely made it because there is always the next horse show, the next horse, the next pattern. And that's what just is so thrilling is because you always have something to work for because nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah, you're never done. You're never over the mountain.
Yeah, you just have to make sure you don't get bogged down in the weeds and think that you'll never be able to make it out because I hate to spoil it for you, but you are going to make it out and you're going to probably have a pretty dang good view from the top when you do. And at what point are you going to tell yourself, I'm not an imposter. I do deserve to be here. And you know what? Who says you don't deserve to be there, right? Like we all pay to do this thing and this is supposed to be fun. So if we're having a good time and we've paid our entry fees, we deserve to be there, right? And then an example of a time when I let the nerves get the best of me would be a combination between nerves and fatigue would be at the World Show in 2020 when I was doing the trail. I had had a super great World Show, and I just had one class left, which was the trail finals. I had done super great in the prelims. I was riding a horse that was really talented in the trail, and so there was a lot of expectations that I put on myself because historically trail had been a tough class for me. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I finally have an opportunity to showcase what this horse is capable of, and I don't wanna mess that up." So that's where I let the fear of the judgment of others kind of take over, and I had a really big mistake. So we had made the trail final, and there was a pretty complicated maneuver at the beginning, and then it was a super simple lope into the chute and stop. So I got through the really difficult part, and I for some reason just got so nervous and my I could feel my feet shaking in the stirrups. I was like, if they're shaking, they are not supporting this horse and telling him what he should be doing. So I'm just kind of a passenger at this point, and I point him towards the chute with absolutely zero regard for the distance, and we just trot right into the chute. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And thankfully, it was going into the chute, so I did have a second to pause and kind of recollect myself. because if I hadn't had that second, it probably would have, like, tumbled downhill very, very quickly.
Your bounce back.
Yeah, my bounce back ended up being really great
Yes.
because I took a breath. I told myself, "You know what? You had one bad mistake. You have the rest of the pattern left, and this is a really awesome horse. So go out there, just enjoy it because you have absolutely nothing to lose. At this point, you have nothing to prove because you're not going to be world champion anyways. So just go out there, enjoy the course." And also, it's the World Show Amateur Trail Finals. No one is going to have a perfect run. This is extremely difficult. So give yourself a little bit of grace. And I finished up quite possibly the best pattern for the second half that I've ever had on him. And we still ended up getting sixth, which was amazing. It was beyond expectation. But I definitely let the fear get the best of me, and we had a really, really major mistake that did not need to happen, but it's because I was so afraid of what other people would think. Then I felt like I had to be perfect that I let it cause me to just basically stop riding, right? And that didn't need to happen.
Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride. Does your advice for handling show nerves look different for somebody who's pretty green to showing versus somebody who's pretty seasoned?
Yes and no. So when you're new to showing, your show nerves are going to kind of come from a little bit of different place than if you've been showing for a while. So if you're new to showing, you actually have kind of the benefit of ignorance is bliss, right? You're not really sure what can go wrong. So you kind of are willing to try certain things and go for certain things. There's no limiting beliefs that you've placed on yourself because you don't even know what you're capable of. So the nerves that you typically have are usually based around the unknown. They're based around the fear of what others will think, but not necessarily a fear of past failures and past experiences, right? So the fear that you have and anxiety that you have is a little bit easier to kind of contain and push forward than when you have experiences that have maybe not turned out so great. Because when you have the experiences that have not turned out so great, you have to overcome that quote unquote proof of failure, right? So when you're new, really focus on building your toolbox, building your knowledge base, having somebody that you can rely on their opinion, whether it's your trainer or your family member or your best friend at the barn, where you can say, "Hey, this is what I'm worried about. What do you think I should do?" Have a plan, and that plan is really going to help you focus your nerves. And for those of you who have been showing for a while and maybe have to overcome some of those past anxieties and things that maybe you're worried are going to happen again, you're going to really have to focus on having that growth mindset and saying that just because it's happened in the past does not guarantee that it will happen in the future.
Do you think that overall time, or positive experiences impacts your nerves most?
Positive experiences and knowledge, I think, are the best things to overcome nerves with. And you get to positive experiences by building your knowledge. So if you are really struggling with anxiety, focus on building your knowledge base. Focus on being able to have tools to set you up for success, tools to be able to regain control when things get out of hand, and just knowledge of understanding what it is that you are doing on your horse and with your horse.
Yeah, for sure. And then one thing to point out is the anxiety is probably going to come from a feeling of being unprepared. So
Yeah,
the more that
absolutely.
yeah, the more that you can set yourself up for success to be as prepared as possible is probably pretty important. So let's talk a little bit about w- how a specific physical and mental routine can really kind of keep those nerves in check to make you feel like you're as prepared as possible. So if you've never worked out before, or you've never done mindfulness or never done any sort of mindset exercises, at the horse show is probably not where you want to do it for the first time. But
Yeah.
in the weeks and the months leading up to the show, if you're practicing leveling up your fitness and your mental ability as much as possible, then when you get to the show, you're going to feel so much more prepared and you're going to feel like you deserve to be there. You're not going to have as much anxiety about, okay, well, what if this goes wrong? And what if this goes wrong? You're going to feel like you belong there and that you've put in this time, you've put in this work, you've put in this effort, and you're supposed to be there. So making sure that you're focusing on your fitness and your mental routine, you'll be able to feel more prepared when you get to the show. So, I know that from firsthand experience because when I was in high school, I worked out, but I didn't look at fitness as a way to become a better rider, and I didn't use my fitness to help level up my game. I used it because I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to be skinny and all that sort of stuff, right? So, when I started focusing on my fitness as, okay, working on my balance, working on my stability, working on my hip mobility, like once I started looking at fitness differently and then also worked on why I was getting so nervous in the pen, so working on my mental game a little bit too, I didn't have my show nerves anymore. So when I showed in high school, I literally used to throw up before every single class, every single time.
Wow.
And I showed quite a bit in high school. Like, I showed, probably 6 times a year in high school, so I was showing every other month, which is, I mean, quite a bit for a high school student,
Yeah.
and a every time before every single class, and I was probably showing in 6 to 7 events over 4 days, so I was throwing up quite a bit. Oh, it would just oh, it was bad, and I remember, like, people would, like, look at me at the shows and be like, "Oh my gosh, like, does she have, like, a problem?" That sort of thing, and it's like, "No, like, I'm just nervous, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself." And it was so weird, like, it was like I would throw up, and that was how I would get my nerves to go away. Like, I would be so nervous that I would be, like, shaking while I was riding and not able to focus on my riding at all, and then I'd go and I'd, like, throw up in the bathroom or somewhere, and then it was like, "Okay, like, now I'm ready." That was how I got my nerves out, like, that is probably not super
Wow.
healthy, and I remember one time I was like, "Nope, I'm not gonna do it, I need to get over this." And I thought I was gonna throw up during the class, and I remember telling that to my coach right before I went in, and she was like, "Well, if you have to throw up, just stop and kinda leave over the horse and then just keep going." And I almost got there. I was so close, but I didn't. I didn't, so then it was fine. And then I didn't show for probably about a year, and then I started showing at breed shows. And by then, I'd kinda started working a little bit more on my mental game, my physical game, and then I haven't done that since. So that was the last time that I did that was in 2018. So it's been 6 years. So I'd say that I've been able to figure it out, but until
Yeah.
I figured out that piece, it every single time. It didn't matter what class it was, how confident I felt about the pattern, how connected I felt with my horse. I was so nervous about what everybody else was thinking about me. Honestly, I didn't really care about what the judges thought that much. I just really cared about what everybody in the stands thought. I really did. Like, I put so much of my self-worth on what everybody in the stands, the moms, the coaches, the other girls, I really cared a lot about what they thought. And then eventually I kinda learned how to stop caring. I couldn't really tell you exactly how I did that, but I think it just came with confidence of when I got to the shows, when I started showing breed shows, I actually felt more prepared because I'd been working on my mental and my physical game. So
Mhm.
that that helped, like, a lot. And anytime that I kinda slack off in my fitness, I I get to the horse show and I'm like, "Man, like, I don't feel very confident." So that definitely keeps motivation to keep working out.
Isn't it crazy how much of a difference just physical fitness does for your mental state? Like, I know that
Oh,
cha
yeah.
if I feel good physically, mentally, I am so much better.
Yeah, for sure. If I don't feel good, if I don't feel strong, all my confidence goes right out the window.
Absolutely. It's like that kind of baseline of what you need to have to be able to go in there. And I think it's just because you feel like, "Okay, I can handle whatever is thrown at me. I'm not going to be too weak to be able to accomplish something." Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
How important is it to have the right team around you?
Oh my gosh, that could be a whole episode in and of itself. It is like the biggest thing that you can do, from the home life to the horse show life to the actual horse, like the team that you have will make or break you. It will completely change the experience that you have at a horse show. Like having the right support at home allows you to go and have fun when you're actually there. Having the right horse allows you to reach your goals and to enjoy the process. And having the right trainer and kind of horse show family allows you to grow in a safe environment and learn and expand yourself and push yourself to limits that you didn't even know you were possible. And so having the right team, like that is just essential to success and just easing kind of your nerves for everything. What do you think? What have you experienced?
I think that you become who you surround yourself with. It doesn't matter if you're at a horse show, it doesn't matter if you're at work, if you're at the gym. The people that you let into your close circle are who you end up becoming. So I think it's really important to look at the 5 closest people around you in any environment that you're in, especially at a horse show, and say, "Would I be happy if I was a combination of all of these 5 people combined?" If your answer is yes, I think you've got the right team. If your answer is
Yeah.
no, you're gonna have to make a change to your team.
Yeah. Hit the nail on the head right there. I think that's perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, well, thank you. So, making sure that even if like I said, would you be happy if you were a combination of all of those 5 people, right? It's not, would you be happy if you were 100% this person or 100% that person, right? Because at some point, you can't quite control exactly who you're around. You can to some extent, but at some points, it's just unrealistic. And so when you find that you're surrounded by people who maybe you don't want to become that person and they cause more anxiety for you than they help you, then eh, and maybe you have a strategy for this, but like almost learning how to tune their energy and their comments out. So, like, let's say that you have a barn mom and they're just super negative. They're super negative about themselves, about their kid, about the trainer, about their horse, everything. After you've heard it 100 times in a day, you kind of start to have those thoughts about yourself, right? So, how can you tune out the comments that negative people have around you?
Number one is just try to avoid it, right? If you can remove yourself from that situation, let's say you know that there's a certain person in the barn that's going to have really negative energy, try to limit your interactions. Keep it pleasant, keep it short, and keep it moving, right? Say, oh, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. And then move on to the next thing that you've got to do. Go clean your horse's stall instead of sit at the front, right?
Right.
Like find ways to stay away from that person.
Do you think it'd be rude to, like, put in your headphones and just kinda work or be your own thing?
No, especially too, like, if you're worried that this is gonna come across as rude, but if this is what you need in order to have success, just say, "Hey, like, I'm really working on my mental prep, and this podcast really gets me in the zone. This song really gets me in the zone. Like, I need to focus on myself at this point, and I'd love to talk with you later, but right now, it's about me, my horse, and the experience that we're about to have, and just put your headphones in and do what you need to do." And at the same time, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone other than the people who are either writing the checks for you or the people whose advice you really want to hear from, right? So I think it's really important. Don't feel like you have to justify your action if you're doing what is best for you.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I totally agree that I also don't think it's rude, I mean, there's certain times in certain places, if your trainer is, like, trying to have a conversation with you about something that you did wrong and you're like, "Hold on, like, I can't listen to this. This is negative. I gotta go
Yeah,
put
it's
in my
true.
headphones," then, like, you have to There's this quote, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something that, like, a diamond can only be created under a certain amount of pressure, right? So, at some point, you do have to like, eustress is good. Eustress is like moderate or normal stress interpreted as being beneficial. So, for example, lifting weights, that's eustress. That's you putting stress on your muscles and on your bones for them to get stronger. And finding that and having eustress is what makes us better, what pushes us to be the best that we possibly can be. So, you need a little bit of stress in your life, but if it's to the point where you're going and sitting and crying in your hotel room because you can't stand what your trainer told you, then probably gonna have to make some sort of an adjustment.
Right, absolutely. And that adjustment's either the expectations that you put on yourself and the pressure that you put on yourself, or it's having a conversation with your trainer and saying, I'm not ready for this. And maybe they say, yes, you are. You need to believe in yourself more. Right. But a
Yeah.
lot of times the pressure is when we internalize it and don't speak to somebody about it. Like that's one of the greatest things I enjoyed having like you at Sun Circuit with was because you were kind of like my pressure relief valve, right? Like you're when by being able to share with you the things that were going on rather than internalize it, it was allowed me to reset things. And you were able to kind of give me some perspective and we could go on and continue and do great things.
It's like you always need a person that you can be honest and vent with. And that person doesn't
Yes.
necessarily even have to be at the horse show. It could be like your significant other that's at home and you give them a call. But I think you're totally right that you need somebody to like release the pressure with. And if you don't
Yeah.
have that, then oh, that's so much harder. It's so much harder to be successful when you don't have a way to release the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you have that key person in your life. Like you said, doesn't have to be at the horse show, but somebody that you trust and that you can kind of just let it all out to. And that's going to make a big difference for you. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.